Hi guys, welcome back. Today I'm back with another tag video for a very special occasion because we are way into November, and in November Olive from abookolive is organizing Nonfiction November Readathon, in which the idea is to read nonfiction books and try and read more than you usually would. And for this year's Nonfiction November, she actually created an original tag all about nonfiction and why we read it, or why it sometimes seems a bit inaccessible. And I just thought it would be a nice occasion to really spotlight nonfiction book on this channel. And I believe I've only done one other video that really centers on nonfiction, and that was a nonfiction reading vlog that I will link up here if you haven't seen it yet. But without further ado, let's get into the questions. The first question is, how much nonfiction do you read? And I only seriously started reading nonfiction for pleasure maybe a year ago, and I would say that I pretty much read one nonfiction book a month if I average on the whole time that I've started doing that. Question number 2 is, what kind of nonfiction videos do you make or do you want to make on Booktube? As I mentioned, I've only done one specific one so far, and I want to do more. It's just that I feel like I haven't read that much nonfiction that I can start and doing more extensive videos on them. I do have a goal to start making nonfiction recommendation videos, and this will be done as soon as I have put together a nice list of books that I specifically want to highlight. And when that's happened, then you will see it. There will be an extra video for that. Question number 3 is, what is your favorite subgenre of nonfiction? I never really think about nonfiction in terms of categories, although I know it's ridiculous because this is done all the time with fiction. But if I would kind of narrow down what kind of themes interest me, it would probably be science, some historical topics, and anything about nationalities/identities and memoirs from people with dual or multiple identities and nationalities. These are just personal interests of me, and this is what I go and look for in specific nonfiction books, just because the themes are interesting to me. Question number 4 is, do you have a favorite nonfiction book? And again, I don't feel like I have a big enough portfolio to really be able to say like this one for sure, but I do have some current favorites. And I'm gonna name 2 because it was just so hard to decide between both of them, and they were both 5-star reads for me. The first one is The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, which is all about the lives of the 5 women who were killed supposedly by the same man, Jack the Ripper. And the author is really looking into these women as people before being victims, and what their lives might have been, and how this mirrors Victorian life. It's just an amazing book. And the second one is Ace for Arsenic by Kathryn Harkup, and this is a book all about the poisons that Agatha Christie is using in her books to kill off her characters, and it goes into like the chemical knowledge we have about them and where they have been used in history. And it also goes a bit into the specific stories in which they were used. So, you know, if you're interested in like toxicology or poisons or anything like that, and or if you love Agatha Christie, then this is definitely a must read, and it was really no surprise that I love this book so much. Question number 5 is, what do you think keeps people from wanting to read more nonfiction? Obviously, I can't talk for everyone, and we all have different backgrounds in terms of what we like to read and why we do that. But I must say that for me, nonfiction was often connected to the reading I am doing for my work and for science. And unfortunately, a lot of this writing is very dry and not always very nice in terms of how it's written. And so this was always kind of my idea of how nonfiction would be, so dry and badly written. And I've been proven wrong on so many occasions now, and I'm so happy about it. And I think that if this is a hurdle for you, like if this is the thing that makes you not want to pick up nonfiction, honestly, don't think about it any further. It's absolutely not true. Question number 6 is, why do you like reading nonfiction? I think that I really like it because I've always been someone who has many different interests, and I have been struggling as a younger person to decide what I want to pursue as a career. And I've always loved many different things, like from science to literature to archaeology to like myths and legends and what they mean in our culture. So I think that reading nonfiction is a perfect way to pursue these interests, and if you have many, then all the better. And you can just find a book that works for you and that addresses the topics that you're interested in, and it's this kind of semi-academic way of continuing to learn about things you're passionate about, and just also expand your knowledge just for fun. Question number 7 is, what is a nonfiction book you read because of Booktube? I would say probably all of them. I must have seen probably pretty much all of them on some channel or other. A most prominent example that I will show you though is a book that I would say has definitely been hyped a lot on Booktube and that I ended up really enjoying. And it's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Reni Eddo-Lodge, which is her exploration of racism in the UK. And this has been loved by many and discussed by many on various Booktube videos, and it really encouraged me to get to it, and I'm so glad that I did, because this is also a really good one that I recommend to everyone. Question number 8 is, what is the best nonfiction book you've read recently? And for me, that's Red Dust Road by Jackie Kay. She is a poet and writer, and in this one, it's her memoir about growing up as a mixed-race girl in Scotland. Her dad was from Nigeria and her mom was Scottish, and how that was for her, and also her journey in connecting to both her parents' families, with which she had no contact whatsoever because she was adopted. This book is just so beautiful, and it shows so much of this duality of what you feel like your identity is and what outside people say about who you are, and how nationality and putting people into categories according to that is sometimes really difficult when you have a background of coming from different cultures, and how she comes to terms with that. And it's just so, so, so beautiful. Question number 9 is, what are some of your nonfiction reading goals? So I want to make it a goal that I read at least one nonfiction book a month, so that I continue to do that. And within these goals is one specific book that I want to get to in the very near future, and that's Agatha Christie's Autobiography. If you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you will know that I am a big, big, big fan of Agatha Christie, and I can't believe that I haven't read this yet, because I feel like you get to know this woman through her books, but I just want to hear her talk about certain topics that I feel like she's addressing in her books from her own voice, and to really understand what's going on in her head. So this is definitely one of the nonfiction books I want to get to in the near future. Question number 10 is, what's your advice for incorporating more nonfiction into your reading diet? And I can imagine that this advice will have come up a few more times in this tag, but I would say audiobooks. Reading nonfiction in audiobook form, it's really engaging, for example, to listen to memoirs that are narrated by the author. It just gives an extra layer to the experience. And there's just going to be 2 books that I will highlight here where I think the audiobook is outstanding. And that is The Five by Hallie Rubenhold, which I mentioned before, as well as The Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace-Wells, which is a book that explores how our Earth is changing right now and how it will look like if we don't do anything to slow down global warming, the effects it will have on our economy, on social affairs, and everything about our lives, really. And this is narrated by the author, and it's such a heavy, such an important book, and it was really amazing to hear it narrated by the man who wrote it. Now let's get on to the bonus question, and that is to recommend some channels that talk about nonfiction. And I've written down a few, and I will start with Mara from Bookslikewhoa, Jean from Jeansbookishthoughts, Emma from A Cup of Books, Sandra from Pull Down the Moon, Elisabeth from the Bookish North, and Julie from the Hungry Bookworm. So I really highly encourage you to go check out these channels, because these are some of the channels that I go to for nonfiction recommendations. And yeah, I would love to know if you've read any good nonfiction books recently, or what have you been reading during Nonfiction November. I would love to know. I'm always open for recommendations. And thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!